Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to our series in 6 hours complete driving theory for Belgium Made Simple. Today we will look at the topic speed. My name is Anjum and I'm the author of the book Driving Theory of Belgium Made Simple. In today's lesson, we will look at these topics. So we will look at adapted speed or adjusted speed. We will look at what the speed limits are and within built up area, outside built up area. We will look at some special zones, for example, pedestrian zone, residential area. What are the speeds that one needs to follow in these zones? What are the restrictions? Things like that. We will look at the speed limits on motorway and expressway. We will talk a lot about expressway in the sense we will explain what an expressway is. If there is any minimum speed on motorway and expressway, we will talk about that. And then we will move on to a very important topic, which is overtaking, which is probably a lot of mistakes people make in exam. And we will look at what overtaking is, what is not an overtaking. We will look at the prohibitions while overtaking. We will look at merging traffic, in the sense zipping, how to do zipping. And we will end with understanding the braking and stopping distance. That's also very critical in the sense when you apply brakes, how much time does it take for your car to stop? And finally, we will end with an overview of the traffic signs. All right, so let's get started. All right, so adapted speed. So let's look at the general rules regarding the speed. So always try to drive safe, avoid accidents, very obvious, avoid obstructions, don't cause your car to stop at junctions, for example. Always keep safe distance between your car and the car in front of you. Don't drive too slowly, even though you are allowed to drive slowly on roads, certain roads, except motorway, but never drive too slowly. Huh? That's still an offense. Okay. So don't race, and on roads, don't do racing. Busy areas, watch out for your speed because there could be a lot of people, pedestrians on the road come in. Huh? So you should also watch out for vulnerable road users like children, old people. So you have to be very careful to not drive too fast in those places. Also watch out for trams and buses. Trams take a lot of time to stop, so you have to be very careful when you're driving close to a tram station or a bus stop, And there could be animals or cattle on the road, so you have to watch out for your speed for these things because animals and cattle, yes, it's difficult to predict how they will use the road. Next, you should also adapt your speed depending on the weather condition and the condition of the road. For example, is it a slippery road? Do you have sufficient visibility? During snow and heavy rain, the visibility is very limited, so you have to adapt your speed accordingly. Keep proper distance, sufficient distance, reduce your speed if needed. Do not apply sudden braking because sudden braking results in accidents and slippery road. Watch out for these road signs and adapt your speed accordingly. Okay. Also looking at the environment or the place where you're driving, you have to adapt your speed. Is it the urban area? Is it the built up area or outside built up area? There are different speed limits for that. You have to know that. Are there any road works happening? Am I approaching a junction? So at junctions, you have to remember there are different rules depending on what type of junction. Do you have a priority? You don't have a priority. You have to watch out for all those things. At road narrowings, again, the same thing. Adapt your speed, even though you might have a priority, but still adapt your speed. Limited visibility, again, always you should be able to stop for obstacles. Okay, you should, depending on the road condition, you should adapt your speed. Okay, now finally, your vehicle, very important. The vehicle has to be well maintained. For example, the tire pressure, for example, the brakes are working, the oil is okay, it's well serviced, it's up to date, the lights are working. You need to have a well maintained vehicle for safety. Also remember, do not overload the vehicle, because when you overload the vehicle, it takes a longer time to brake. Even, I mean, the other things are, it takes a lot more fuel consumption. It, but then also, in case of accidents, it takes a longer time to stop. Okay. Now let's look at the speed limits inside a built-up area. All right. So this is the road sign for a built-up area. Remember, any white plate, okay, with black ink on it, rectangular white plate with black ink on it, is a zonal board. We will see a lot of zonal boards as we go through this training, but this is a zonal board. What does it mean? It means that when you look at this board, you have to follow the regulations across the entire zone. So it's not that the prohibition or the regulation ends at the next street. You have to watch out for the entire zone. So unless you see an end of zone board, all the regulations apply in that zone. So it could be one street, it could be multiple streets, it could be an entire area. For example, Brussels, it's an entire area where some speed restrictions apply. So you have to watch out for these zonal boards. As I said, we will see at a lot of zonal boards as we go through this training. Okay. So when you have this built up area, that's the beginning of built up area. Always when a prohibition ends, they will have a cross line like this. Okay. That's where the prohibition ends. So this is end of built up area. Inside built-up area, your speed must be maximum 50 kilometers per hour. Okay, that's in Flanders as well as in Wallonia. However, inside in Brussels, it's 30 kilometers per hour. Okay, there are, of course, exceptions. There are always exceptions. So here also we have exceptions. You will follow this 50 kilometers or 30 kilometers wherever, whatever it is, depending on the region. But then there could also be exceptions where they say follow a different speed. For example, you see here, this is a zonal board. Here you will start the zone. Here you are still driving at 50 kilometers. But the moment you cross this traffic sign, you are allowed to drive at 70. But remember, this 70, you will do it only till the next junction. Okay. And after that junction, you will again follow the zonal board because you are still under that zone. So you will follow 50 kilometers per hour. If they want you to drive at 70 after the junction, they will put another board after the junction because, these prohibitions, these boards, they apply only till the next junction. Now, so you will follow this board, but remember, between this board and this board here, traffic sign, you will still have to do 50 kilometers per hour. Okay. And from here onwards, it's 70 kilometers per hour. So I just want to highlight one thing. These are all images that I have generated for this training. So, there could be a little deviation. I mean, these are not real images, of course. These are something that I generated. For example, you cannot have, I mean, you will probably not see a start of built up area and then immediately a traffic sign after some distance. I did this to explain the concept. Okay, I hope that's clear. And so, you might see a little deviations, but I will explain those. Don't worry about that. But I have generated all these images to make the training easy to understand. Okay, so all right, now that's about the speed. And then, about the zone, there could be other zones like zone 30, or you could be inside a residential area, you know, then again, you have to adapt your speed. Then you will not do 50 kilometers, but you will do a different speed. In zone 30, you will do 30 speed, right? Now you have to watch out for, these are the exceptions, of course. We will talk about this subsequently in this training. Residential area, pedestrian zone, school zone, what are these? We will talk about this in this training, in this lesson. And then there could be limitations that apply on a full area. For example, this is a built-up area, and then there is a traffic sign above the built up area. Now this one applies to the entire zone, this 30 kilometers. Okay, so it means 30 kilometers in this zone, not 50. It's a classic example of Mechelen. So Mechelen has this concept where they have this 30 kilometers above the zonal board. In the entire Mechelen city, you will follow that 30 kilometers per hour, not 50. Okay. All right. So let's proceed. Now we have looked at inside built-up area. Now let's look at outside built-up area. Outside built-up area, it's very simple. Okay, here's where your built-up area ends in all in three examples. And if you are in Flanders or Wallonia, outside built-up area, you drive 70 kilometers per hour. Okay, here 70. If you are in Wallonia, you will do 90. This is also in Brussels, outside built-up area, it's still 70 kilometers per hour. All right. Now, let's say outside, now, very important to remember, this is only when there are no traffic signs. Okay, if there are traffic signs, there, we know that hierarchy, right? So the first at the top are the police, then we have the traffic lights, traffic signs, and traffic rules. So the traffic rules come at the last. Okay, so if you want to know about the hierarchy, then you have to follow the lesson one of this series. Now, because there are no traffic boards, you will follow the traffic rule, which says 70 kilometers here in Flanders and Brussels and 90 kilometers in Wallonia. Those are the regulations or rules. Okay. Now let's say again here, no traffic boards. If there is a traffic board, you just follow the traffic board. No other question. Now, if there are no traffic boards outside built up area, it doesn't matter where you are. In Flanders, in Wallonia, it doesn't matter. Outside built up area, if there is a 2x2 lane separated by a central verge, okay, 2x2 lane separated by a central verge, no traffic boards, outside built up area, then you're allowed to do 120 kilometers per hour. All right. So this is the regulation, and this applies to everywhere in all the regions. All right. Okay, so let's continue and look at the speed signs. Okay, these are the speed signs that you see here, 70, 50, this is also a speed sign. So these speed signs, they override general limits. Okay, as in this example, we have already explained the general limit is 50, but this 70 kilometers, it's overriding or overruling 50 kilometers. So you, from this board onwards, you can follow 70 kilometers per hour. These indicate the speed limits, of course. So from here, you drive at 50 kilometers per hour till here, and from here, you're allowed to drive at 70 kilometers per hour. Okay. Now, there could be speed signs for the entire zone that can apply for an entire zone. For example, in this case, you have from the zone starts here and ends here, luckily for us in the same street. But as I said, it could be an entire zone covering more than one street or one road. So it's starting here at 30 kilometers. So from between here and here, you will continue with a maximum speed of 30 kilometers per hour. So remember, as I said, a white plate with black ink, that's a zonal board. And very important, a tip I want to give you also for your practical exam, when you come across this zonal board, okay, watch out, because you need to always remember where is the zone ending. You have to watch out, keep your eyes, watch out for the end of zone board, which is like this. Because if you miss this zonal board end of zone, you will still continue driving at 30, which is not okay for practical exam. Okay, so be careful. When you enter a zone, always be alert and watch out where the zone ends. Okay, so they could have zone 30 for safety of vulnerable road users. For example, this could be a school, and then they could have put a zone of 30 kilometers per hour. So end of prohibition is something like this. You will see a board like this, which gives, so here it's written 50 and end of prohibition, which means that here the speed limit of 50 ends. And after that, this board, you are allowed to continue driving at the normal speed. Okay, outside built up area, you know the rules. Now, end of prohibition, if they don't have anything, for example, if they don't have anything on the board, no 50, just a line like this, then it ends all prohibitions. Important to remember. Let's say there are two prohibitions, okay? One is you drive at 50 kilometers per hour. The other prohibition is no overtaking. So instead of putting two boards, one end for prohibition 50 and another end of prohibition for no overtaking, they will just have a single board with empty board and a line and a cross like this. That means all prohibitions end, overtaking prohibitions end, speed prohibitions end, so you can continue driving normally. Okay. All right, so let's continue.